All right, team. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Work from Home Nutrition Tips. My name is Maureen Hahn, and I'm a Director of Client Development here at Foodsmart, and I am absolutely thrilled to welcome you all to today's discussion. As we get started today, I just wanted to start off with a couple of quick housekeeping items about the webinar. We will have attendees muted just to minimize disruptions, but please feel free to make comments or ask questions through either our chat or Q&A functions. We'll pause periodically to check in on questions along the way, and then we'll definitely be saving time at the end of the webinar for any remaining questions. And then finally, we will also be emailing materials and the recording in follow-up to all attendees, so you can keep your eyes peeled for that after we wrap up. All right, Ryan, if you wouldn't mind flipping to the next slide. First things first, as a quick introduction for those of you who may not be as familiar with Foodsmart, we are a comprehensive food care platform that provides services such as virtual nutrition counseling through our nationwide network of registered dietitians. And we also provide digital nutrition support tools that help make eating well both convenient and affordable through our digital platform, which you can access at foodsmart.com. Now, for today's webinar, we have one of our amazing registered dietitians, Rhyan Geiger, taking us through a number of helpful tips for working from home, which I know is a super relevant topic for many of us in today's remote work environment. So we'll be covering everything from meal planning examples to some fresh and new meal ideas for those of us who are working from home. And as a little bit more about Rhyan, our speaker today, she is an award-winning dietitian and clinical liaison here at Foodsmart. She is the author of Vegan Slow Cooking for Two, has been featured in a number of national publications such as Women's Health, Food Network, Shape. If you live in Phoenix, Arizona, where she lives, you might have seen her on the local news there in Arizona. Rhyan is super passionate about helping diverse populations improve health through sustainable plant-based eating, and overall just making plant-based nutrition accessible to all. She earned her BS in dietetics from Arizona State and completed her dietetic internship at Georgia Southern University. So that's a little bit about Rhyan. I won't steal your thunder though, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to you to take us away, Rhyan.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much. I can't wait to talk about work from home tips. I, as you can see, am also working from home, and there are a lot of different challenges that come with working from home. There are also some going in the office too, but when we all started working from home, we're like, wow, this will be great. My health is going to be amazing. And then we fall into new habits and new routines that might not be as healthy or as great as we maybe first anticipated. So nutrition at home might look different because of those routines I was mentioning. When we're going to the office, sometimes we'll maybe stop at the gas station to fill up on gas, but then pop in to the store and grab some items or grab some snacks or grab drinks. Or, when you're in office, there are cakes, cookies. It seems like there's always someone's birthday. It's a celebration of some sort. So those types of foods in office can give us the less healthy options that we don't necessarily get at home. But at home, we have a different change in environment. So when we're at home, we have constant access to our kitchen, constant access to the pantry. We have our routine and our schedule can be different than in office. It can be a little more loose or more flexible at home. Because you're not maybe waking up at the same time, getting ready, driving there, you've got more things to plan. So you get home at 5 o'clock, you have to have dinner by 6:30. All those different things that we have in office might be a little more less structured while at home. We also may have a decrease in activity, sitting a lot more screen time. So we go from our laptop or our desktop to the TV to our phone to maybe another laptop at home. So that also is going to change our nutrition environment. And then also with our energy. So regardless of at home or in the office, we still may experience those energy dips. At home, the couch is much closer than the office. You can't lay down or you can't kind of rest or sit on the couch or have any of those types of interactions in the office, but you can at home. So it can lead to some energy dips. And then also, kind of with the kitchen access, it's leading to mindless snacking or snacking that maybe we don't notice that we're doing because it's there. Or, every time you walk to the bathroom, you walk by the kitchen, make a pit stop in the kitchen. Now you know you've got a snack every time you go to the bathroom. So different things like that kind of change the nutrition environment of work from home. So, what can we do to make working from home and eating at home feel a little bit more balanced? And where we can start is with building a balanced plate. So, what that looks like for adults is going to be what this picture shows. We're going to have protein, whole grains, vegetables, healthy fats, some vegetables. I just mentioned vegetables twice because it's the biggest part of our plate, and I don't want you to forget the vegetables. So, we'll break each of these categories down on the next slides. So we're starting with those fruits and vegetables because this is the largest section of our plate. And for a balanced diet for an adult, we really want to aim to have 50% of our meal or 50% of our plate be some type of fruit or vegetables. This helps us reach our daily goal of at least 5 servings per day. And there are so many different options for fruits and vegetables, and there are a lot of different benefits to adding these to your day. There's vitamins, essential vitamins, minerals, fiber, which is going to help support our immune system, which is really important, especially since at home we might not have as many interactions. So, really helping enhance our immune system since when we do go out, we're introduced to things that we're not necessarily introduced to all the time or that we would get in an office. Unless you have kids, because kids seem to always bring all these different types of germs and things home that your immune system gets a little bit stronger from their exposure. So that's the importance of fruits and veggies. We're going to start building off that. So I always say add your veggies to your plate first because it's a blank canvas when you have your plate. When you add your first item, it's going to take up the most room. So you want the most room to be your vegetables. So putting those on first is great. The second item that you'll add is protein. So protein is important because it's going to help build our muscles, help build our bones. It's also going to help us with our energy levels, feeling full after meals, which prevents some of that snacking and helps us feel full and satisfied after meals and after snacks. So this is also important too, because as we're aging, we are losing muscle mass, and this can help with our preservation of that muscle mass. So I have on the slide too, because I know GLP-1 is very trending, and there are a lot of consumers who are using GLP-1s. I just wanted to call out that with those, the protein needs are going to be higher. So standardly, it's 0.8 grams per kilogram. And with a GLP-1, it's going to be 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram to see what your baseline is. So you can go higher than that, but that would be like the minimum amount of protein that you would get each day. So protein's great for strength and building those muscle mass and maintaining muscle mass. So which foods have protein? So we have two different categories here. We have our animal-based proteins, which are going to be in the green here. Then we have our plant-based proteins, which are going to be or these are blue, and these are green. The plant-based are green. So these are not a comprehensive list, but it gives you an idea of where the different categories are. And it's not to say that one is better than the other, but it's just to show that you can have a wide variety of proteins and that a lot of foods have protein in them besides just meat or besides just chicken. So you can reach your protein goals a little bit easier by incorporating a variety of these protein-rich foods. The plant-based proteins are going to have higher fiber. They're going to have higher amounts of unsaturated fats. And when we look at foods like beans and lentils, they're both high in protein and high in fiber. So, what I like to recommend to a lot of clients, or just a fun tip or trick, is if you are looking to increase fiber or increase those healthy fats, what you can do is blend them together. So, if you're like, I'm not totally sold on eating only plant-based proteins, that's totally fine. What you could do if you're making something like sloppy joes, or say you're making like a pasta meat sauce, you could do half meat, half lentils, or half beans. And that increases the healthy fats, increases the fiber, and a lot of different nutrients from those plant-based proteins that you might not get from your meats. So fun tip trick.
Hey, Ryan, if I could jump in quickly here with a couple things. One, team, I know that we are experiencing a glitch with the chat function, so please feel free to direct comments and questions into the Q&A instead. And then two, Ryan, we did have a question, our first question come in. You had mentioned GLP-1 a little while ago, and we know that a lot of folks are on GLP-1 therapy. And the question is that with the GLP-1 therapy, I'm experiencing very little appetite. It's challenging to want to eat. So, do you have any suggestions on foods that we can reach for to consume in those types of circumstances when you're working from home?
hmm Yeah, that is very, very common, is having very little to no appetite. The first thing I would do is check with your provider that the dosing is correct, because we still want to make sure that you're able to eat. But then, in terms of what your meals would look like, it's going to be small, more frequent meals. So the plate that I showed, it can look like that, but it's going to be much, much smaller. And you also will want to prioritize what you're eating first. So I definitely would go protein first in terms of the food groups. So protein first, and then you could do your veggie and then the carbohydrate. That's going to help give you max benefit. And why I say protein first is because your protein needs are increased. So if you save that till the end and you're not hungry, you're not going to be able to meet those protein needs. And we really do want to preserve the lean muscle mass, because as you're losing weight, you're also likely to lose muscle. So we really are looking to preserve your muscle mass. So proteins are going to be the food that I would recommend, in my experience, eating first, followed by veggies, and then followed by the carbohydrate. Great question. Speaking of carbohydrates, that's our next topic. So with the carbohydrates, there are different foods that fall into carbohydrate, but we're going to talk about whole grains today. And whole grains are going to be important because they are giving us fiber. They're helping maintain those energy levels as well. And because of the fiber, they're keeping us full for longer and promoting better bowel habits. So different options here are going to be whole grains like brown rice, whole wheat, bread, quinoa, oats. Those are all great options for whole grains. And the little seal on here that is the mustard color that says look for whole grains. On different products in the grocery store, you'll find that seal, and that will tell you if it is 100% whole grain, or if it's 50% whole grain, or it gives you more detail on how many whole grains you're getting. So anytime you're choosing grains, opting for whole grains most of the time is going to give us the best nutrition benefits. So breaking up what foods have carbohydrates, which ones don't have carbohydrates, there are the two different classifications. We have complex carbohydrates, which are going to give us more than just a quick burst of energy. They're going to have the fiber, they're going to have vitamins, minerals, they're going to give us a more well-packaged type of carbohydrate. That's going to be things like fruits, vegetables, beans, and those whole grains. Those are all classified as complex, which are what we want to choose more often. They take longer to digest, and they're giving us more slow burning energy. So it's going to last us throughout a longer period of time. The other category of carbohydrates are our simple carbohydrates. And as it sounds, they are more simple in their molecules. We've got sugar, molasses, honey, fruit juice, things with added sugar. So cookies, ice cream, cakes, all of those are going to have simple carbohydrates. And those, while tasty and okay to enjoy sometimes, if you're looking for satiety and things that keep you full longer, these burn off really fast. So the amount of energy that you're getting, so you eat a cookie, for example, and we probably all experience this. You eat something and then it's maybe an hour to an hour and a half later, and you're like, man, I'm hungry again, but I know I just ate food. I don't know why I'm hungry. It could be that it's out of balance, and that's a lot of times what happens with the simple carbohydrates is you have a burst of energy and then you lose it really quick. So that's how simple carbohydrates work. They're really great for exercise. If you see any runners or marathoners have GU, that's a good example of a simple carbohydrate. So they're not necessarily bad, but they are used a little bit more differently than a complex carbohydrate. And then I also wanted to just point out the refined or processed grains. These are white rice, white bread, cereal, pretzels, crackers. Those foods most of the time are going to lean more towards the simple carbohydrates, but I put them by themselves because these aren't things that you need to never eat again, and they're very great. And I have some examples using pretzels a little bit later, but this group specifically works best when paired with something else like a protein or a healthy fat. That's what's going to add the satiety to these specific items. Next up is fats. So with our fats on our plate, there are different types of fats. So we have our unsaturated fats at the bottom, which is our green light. These are going to be fats that have lower amounts of saturation. Woo! And they help improve our LDL. They help raise our HDL cholesterol and reduce risk for heart disease. This can be found in nuts, seeds, nut butters, fish, things like that. Saturated fats are going to be our yellow light, so things that if you don't want to have as often, these are going to raise our LDL cholesterol and they should be consumed more in moderation. And then our trans fats are fats that you would want to avoid. They're coming from mostly ultra-processed foods, fried foods, and these are things that we want to limit because they do raise our LDL and they increase risk for heart attack, stroke, diet, and diabetes. So really wanting to limit those. And this is more and I love the visuals of like this is what I'm talking about, and this is where the category falls. So what foods have healthy fats? You'll see the ones that don't have the X are going to be more classified as having healthy fats, and then the ones with the X are going to be ones that do not have as much healthy fat in them. And it's not to say that you can never have the ones with the X, but those would be the ones that you would eat less often.
Hey, Ryan, is this an okay time for a quick question break? We've got a couple of questions that have rolled in.
Sure.
Why don't we start with how do you balance trying to get enough plant-based protein while keeping carbs low for blood sugar control?
hmm Yes, with plant-based proteins, I'm always a huge advocate for tofu, tempeh, edamame. Those are really great options, especially if the carbohydrates are one of your main concerns. Any of the soy products are going to be relatively lower in carbohydrate, so that's where I would start. And then you can also mix in the plant-based proteins with your animal-based proteins if that's something that you're looking for as well.
Great, thank you. Second question, do you have recommendations for good sources of carbs that are filling but also grain-free?
Hmm, that is a good one. My mind goes to vegetables. Your vegetables, like your potatoes, anything like that would be like a starchy vegetable is going to give you a lot of different nutrients within it, but they don't contain any grains in there. So that's where my mind immediately goes. If I think of any other that are maybe more fun, I think vegetables are fun, but if I think of any, I'll circle back to that.
Okay. How about one more for this question pause? Does V8 juice serve as a good basis for servings of veggies?
V8 juice. So I'm not super familiar with the V8 nutrition facts panel, but one thing that I would look at is the amount of added sugar. I'm not sure if they add any sugar to their product, but if they don't, and it's solely just the vegetable juice or the fruit juice, that can count as a serving of vegetables or fruits. It's going to have naturally occurring sugar from the fruits and veggies, but I would be more curious on the added sugar. If it doesn't have added sugar, then that would count.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
Mhm. Yes. Okay, so I know it was mentioned I live in Arizona. So right now it is, I don't, my little thermometer is covered, but I would imagine it's probably 103 and it's early in the morning. It's a scorcher today. So hydration is top of mind, and I know a lot of other places in the US it's also super hot. So I wanted to touch on hydration to make sure that we are not getting dehydrated and that we are prioritizing hydration not only in summer months, but year round as well, because hydration is going to help with our metabolism, it's going to help with inflammation, help with our muscles, our joints, and so many things that sometimes we don't really think about in terms of hydration. And on this slide, too, because we all are working from home, I had to call out the caffeine and the general recommendations for caffeine. So, the general recommendation here is no more than 400 milligrams per day. So if you are an energy drink consumer like Monster, C4, that's going to be each of those typically has about 200 milligrams of caffeine. So you would want no more than two of those per day. And if you are having like Monster or like some type of energy drink, and also coffee or tea or Diet Coke or any type of soft drink, those all are having caffeine too. So I'm just taking a look at how much caffeine that you are consuming per day to make sure that it is less than the 400 milligrams per day. That helps protect heart health and also overall feelings of like jitterness and anxiety, heart racing, all of those things that come with caffeine intake. So with hydration, I love this slide because it just shows how much water our body is made up of. So infants are going to have the most water, and then as we get older, we are less water than we were when we were infants, but still a great amount of us is made of water. Water is found in our brain, in our heart, and nearly 60% of the human body is water. So it is so important that we are making sure that we're reaching our hydration needs. So with water, that's going to be the best way to stay hydrated. And the amount of water, you can find out what's good for you based on your urine color, and that tells you if you are hydrated. So here I have a color scale. So you've got 1 to 8 here. You want to aim to have your urine be 1 or 2. It can look like a light lemonade color, and that's going to tell you that you are hydrated. So once you hit this color, you know for that day that's how much water you want to keep it this color throughout the day. So you'll know that that is the appropriate amount of water for you. A good way to start is take your body weight in pounds, divide it by 2, and that will give you how many ounces of water to start with per day to see how that feels. Perfect. So those are all of the food groups. So I know there are so many nutrition concerns and so many questions that I covered briefly that, and there's some that I didn't touch on. So working with a dietitian can be a great way to get those specific questions answered. So if your health plan does allow dietitian visits, definitely taking that up and meeting with a Foodsmart dietitian is a great way to get those questions answered and get more personalized nutrition care. So now the fun part is meal prepping methods. So we know now all the pieces of the plate and where those go, why they're important, but how do we put that into what does that look like in real life and how do I do this at home? And we're going to break down some of these common barriers and questions that come up around how do I meal plan? What does it look like? I don't want to do just one style of meal planning that we see often. Putting everything in a container and putting it in the fridge works perfect for some people. Some people don't like that. And there are more than one ways to meal prep. So we're going to touch on a lot of different ways that you can meal prep and make it your own. So the first one, we've got to go traditional because this is the thing that we all envision when we think of meal prep. So this is great for people who like to prepare all of their meals in advance and store them in the fridge to eat. You can do this with soup, stews, baked egg dishes, freezer burritos, salads, bowls. Kind of take everything, make the meal, put it into a Tupperware and put it in your fridge. When it's time to eat, you pull out the one serving, and then you can have your meal to go. This is traditional because this is what most people envision when thinking about meal prep, but Not a lot of people like it. If you don't like leftovers, this might not be the best method because it feels kind of like leftovers. So it is great for grab and go dinners, grab and go lunch, and can be a really great option. Next is batch cooking, or what I like to call component cooking. So this is cooking large quantities of one item and storing it in different dishes, and you can use it throughout the week. So it could be an example of a pot of beans in one container, brown rice in another container, and roasted vegetables in another container, maybe chopped lettuce in another container. And this is great if you don't necessarily like having everything prepared for you and you have a little bit of time to put everything together. Because with these ingredients, you can make endless amounts of things. You could do like a Southwest style salad, you could do a burrito, you could do tacos, you could do with the brown rice, you could do like a sushi bowl of some sort if you had other chopped veggies. So you can kind of mix and match throughout the week without feeling like you're stuck on the same things or that it's repetitive and you're like, I'm so tired of eating this. This is a great way to kind of still meal prep, but not have that type of feeling with it. And this is great just for having those specific containers of all these different items that you can put together. Makes a lot of different dishes. The next one is the countdown method. This is really popular. It was popular, I think, like a year ago online. Trends come and go, but this is a trend that I love and I'm sticking with it because it makes cooking fun. You kind of get something new every day. It incorporates the grocery shopping element as well. And this is mostly going to be great for cooks who feel comfortable in the kitchen and who like creativity or who feel really confident in knowing which ingredients go together because it's a lot of kind of like mix and matching, drawing the line here. Vegetable goes with this fruit, goes with this grain, and it's really fun if you like cooking. So what this is you mix and match these ingredients. You go 5 vegetables, and this is for a household of one. 5 vegetables, 4 fruits, 3 proteins, 2 starches, 1 sauce or spread. And then throughout the week, you can mix and match your veggies and your proteins to create all different kinds of dishes, but it at least gets you started on, I know I'm using these ingredients and I'm going to make something with them. But now you have a little bit of structure. So maybe if you don't love the completely structure, but you want some framework, this would be a good option for you. So it's really flexible, it's really fun. It can be scaled up or down depending on how many people you have in your household. And typically when you pair like one of your vegetables with your proteins, with the starch, with the sauce, it typically works out pretty well. Or you could try new combos too. Okay, so what makes a snack versus what makes a meal? So when looking at snacks, I generally say two groups is a snack food. So this one, I only checked one, so would not classify as a snack. Could classify as a snack, but likely wouldn't keep you feeling full for longer, which is kind of what we're going for. So two groups is going to be a snack food, and then 3+ groups is going to be a full meal that's going to keep you feeling full and satisfied. That's the main goal with meals. So we'll have 3 meals per day for general consumers, 6 small meals for our people who are taking GLP-1s, and then 2 snacks per day or 3 snacks, depending on what your nutrition needs are. And I know I've talked a lot about balance, but it really does come down to the balance on your plate and making sure that you have your protein, your healthy fats, your vegetables, and a whole grain or some type of complex carbohydrate on there to create the feelings of fullness, especially if you feel like you're always hungry, even after eating a meal, or really focusing on why am I hungry? And I really want to feel satisfied and have all of the well-rounded nutrients in a plate. This is a great method and a great visual to get to that point. So, some ideas for breakfast for work from home. These are all relatively quick and easy. So Greek yogurt plus fruit. You could even make this ahead of time. What I would recommend doing if you are in a hurry in the mornings, just chopping your fruit ahead of time. These are apples, so they can brown, but putting a little bit of lime juice or lemon juice, or even a little bit of like apple cider vinegar on the apples will prevent them from browning. So that's a great way that you could just have your fruit, dump it, have your yogurt, dump that in there, and it takes maybe 5 minutes. Overnight oats, that's another great option. Really quick, you can do it the night before, put everything in a bowl or a mason jar. I like to put it in a mason jar, put the lid on, shake, 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 and then put it into the fridge. There are also store-bought versions of overnight oats. So if you're like, nah, I'm not feeling like cooking, I don't want to do that, totally fine. There are a lot of different store-bought options that you can have that you can just add the water and that's good for you in the morning. This overnight oats also has a little bit of chia pudding on there as well. So that's another option that these are kind of blended together, but you could also do a chia pudding, which is just chia seeds, a little bit of milk of your choice. You can add fruit or kind of flavor it up like you would overnight oats, and it's going to be filling because it's got the fiber, soluble fiber from the chia seeds. It's got protein from chia seeds as well, and probably depending on the milk you choose, it will have protein in there as well. You can top it with some veggies. You can add some hidden vegetable with shredded zucchini. And you're hitting all of your different food groups by adding all these elements to these ingredients. Next is classic toast with nut butter. And I wanted to add this one because I was recently watching a movie and they had toast, just toast for breakfast. Nothing on the toast. It was just like toast plain. And then they're like, hey, bye, have a good day at work, have a good day at school. And it's such a classic breakfast, but I wanted to show how we can elevate it and make it a meal that is going to give us that long sustained energy. So ways that we could do that is adding any type of nut butter or seed butter that's going to give us protein and healthy fats. We can also use a whole grain slice of toast or whole grain. I saw whole grain sourdough, which is super trendy right now as well. And it's got that beautiful sourdough look to it, so you could use that. And then adding fruit on top is going to add vitamins and minerals. You could also add chia seeds or pumpkin seeds on the top of this as well to add even more nutrients to your breakfast. So some recipes, can't leave you hanging, gotta give you some recipes maybe that you can try out this week or next week. So this is a chickpea and potato hash. So a lot of different elements here, but you could make it ahead of time, have it in the fridge, and then you could make the eggs if you wanted to add eggs the day of, or you could make them scrambled and put them in the fridge. You can kind of make it your own, but this is the base recipe, just an idea for something to make at home. So next we'll talk lunches. So lunches can be one of the trickiest meals when working from home, especially if you're in a lot of meetings. And these are quick, different options for quick lunches. So one of my favorites is a bagged salad and just some air fried tofu made the night before. You can add your dressings, you can add your veggies on top, but the bagged salad is really going to be the base of that. And you kind of just dump it out in a bowl. It's great, quick, easy, and then just adding your protein to the top is a really nice way to get lunch on the table. The second option can be a grain bowl, so either rice or quinoa as the base, adding some veggies and a protein on top. Kind of the same method of heating everything up and dumping it on top. You could also do stir fry veggies and protein. There are a lot of different brands that have bags of stir fry veggies that you can just dump out into a pan or even put in the microwave. If you're in a hurry, those are great ways to get some more veggies on your plate without having to spend too much time working on that. So those are some options with that. Just looking at the ingredients, sometimes they'll add like sauces or like seasonings and things. So just being mindful of if those are ingredients that you want, or if you are just looking for the plain veggies, just carefully reading the ingredients because I've accidentally bought the wrong ones and it's really disappointing when you get home. So here's a lunch options. This is a marinated tofu and rice bowl, one of my favorites. I love just a tofu bowl with rice or quinoa. And this is a good example of what I mentioned earlier about the white rice. So this does have white rice in the bottom of the bowl, but adding the tofu and edamame to it is going to add the protein and fiber, so it's going to be more filling. And then for dinner, I have just a recipe for dinner. Not too many dinner examples because you could also do lunch examples as dinner. But for dinner, you could do a sweet potato and black bean chili. This is great make ahead. The traditional style meal planning, or yeah, meal planning works great for this. You could also do the components. So if you had your sweet potatoes chopped all up and your peppers or onion, whatever ingredients you're adding or using, chop those all up, dump it into a bowl, and let it cook. Can be great. So next for snack options, we kind of talked a little bit earlier about how it's really easy to snack without realizing it. And sometimes we might not be hungry, we might be stressed from a meeting, we might be bored, we might be just taking a break from our screen. And all these different reasons why we snack. And it doesn't mean that snacking necessarily is bad. Snacking can be great for our energy levels and helping us focus when snacking is done intentionally. So one of the ways that I like to ask myself or figure out, am I actually hungry or did I walk by the kitchen and I know that item is in there and I saw it, so now I want it, is asking myself, am I physically hungry or do I just need a break? And that's just asking myself that question. I'm like, oh, actually, I need to get a walk in, or I need to go sit in the sun for a couple minutes, and I'm not actually hungry. I'm just trying to not sit so much, or just all these different things that you can ask yourself to see, like, am I actually hungry, or am I needing a break, or what is the intention behind wanting the snack? And if you do need a snack, that's perfectly fine. Pairing up snacks, you can choose those two different food groups. So these are examples of healthy fats and carbohydrates. So we've got a lot of different options. It's kind of like the drawing the line. So you could say, today I'm having avocado and toast, or avocado and crackers, or dried mango and peanut butter, or almond butter and toast, or salmon and toast. You can kind of do that fun line thing to pair one to the next. Another two groups could be fiber and protein. So same method here. You take your pen or your pencil, draw lines, and this I love doing because it also gets you out of your box. We typically get the same snacks, every day or every week we're eating the same snacks. And sometimes by drawing a line, apple slices to hummus, you're like, that's a little weird, but maybe I'll try it. And it is a little weird, but it's the sweet and savory kind of combo, and it is actually really nice. So you might find new different snacks by doing kind of writing out all of the different fiber-rich snacks or veggies that you have and all the proteins, and then just drawing lines to them or pairing them up in unique ways. And this is a slide that I love to use because our produce options change seasonally. So if you want the best taste and want the most in-season produce, this is what's going to be in season, June to August. So kind of our summer months, these are our in-season produce. So they're going to be top of the harvest, great tasting. I recently had some berries and they were the most beautiful, bright color. You don't get them that good any other time of the year. So really utilizing some of the in-season produce can also help enhance the taste and just overall quality of your meals. And the last slide I have here, it feels a little bit out of place, but I wanted to put it somewhere because we talked a lot about routines and a lot about how things look different when we work from home. So I always like to recommend or suggest having a schedule for yourself. So that way it's kind of mimicking a routine each day. So it's more predictable for you. So you're able to incorporate more movement and more well-rounded meals and meal timing. It helps reduce skipping meals, especially if you are in a lot of meetings. We still want to make sure that you're getting lunch because if you miss lunch, then you're really hungry. When you get really hungry, then what we tend to do is overeat in the next meal because we are famished. So having a routine and creating a routine that's just for you can help balance out all these different elements of wellness. So this is, again, if you have any questions on those specific areas, Definitely meeting with a dietitian if your plan allows can help get some of those more specific questions answered. I think we have a little bit of time for a couple more questions.
Yes, Ryan, we've had a ton of great comments and questions rolling in. So I'm going to do my best to hit a couple of the big categories, and then we can follow up after the webinar if we did not get to your question. But there was definitely a lot of chatter and questions around the whole hydration and drink category. If I could consolidate a couple questions, Ryan, what's your take on using protein drinks? And then also superfood mixed drinks, so drinks like AG1 or other sort of superfood mixes, powder mixes.
Mhm. Yeah, protein drinks and the drink mixes, technically the base of those is water. So it can count towards your daily hydration. I would categorize those more as a supplement or food, which would be 20% of your water needs can come from those types of foods. The rest really should come from water. Uh, but they're kind of like water-based beverages. So depending on what your specific needs are, and also if you do like the non-invasive urine analysis on yourself and you are appearing hydrated, that's a good indicator of if that is actually hydrating or if you need additional supplements, water supplement into that. For drink beverages like AG1 or any powders, my biggest recommendation there is making sure that they are third-party tested. A lot of products may not be third-party tested, and that's important because if it's not tested, it's we don't really know, are they giving us what they say they're giving us? Are the amounts that they're suggesting actually correct? I know AG1 is third party tested, so that one would be fine, kind of consumer's choice. But any other drink powders, kind of just making sure that they are tested, especially if they are marketing themselves as being a supplement with different vitamins and minerals. You want to make sure that that's what you're getting, and also that they're testing for heavy metals and lead, which can be found in a lot of
Mhm.
different protein powders and drink beverages, things like that.
Got it. Okay, staying with the drink category, there's a couple of drink types that are becoming or have been super popular. So one of them is prebiotic soda. Ryan, is prebiotic soda okay to drink?
Yes, it's going to have fiber in it. So my biggest thing is some of those drinks have up to 13 grams fiber per can.
Wow.
That's a lot of fiber, especially if you're not someone who is consuming fiber regularly. Your gut more than likely is going to freak out if you have 13 grams at one time. And especially if you have it with a meal that also has fiber, it's kind of like a fiber bomb in your stomach. So I am totally not anti-probiotic drinks or prebiotic drinks in any fashion. I just always say consumer beware. They are very, very high in fiber. So looking at the serving size and making sure that you're not accidentally consuming a big amount of fiber through those drinks is my biggest thing. And then also always looking at the added sugar. 20% or
Mhm.
higher in the daily value is going to be high in sugar. So if it's over 20%, usually I would say either lower the serving size or opt for a different drink.
Okay. What about matcha? Is matcha healthy? What sort of milk and sweetener would you recommend? And are sugar-free syrups healthy?
hmm Okay. Yeah, lots of drink questions.
Yeah,
Ooh, I love a
yeah.
good beverage. Matcha is healthy. It is a green tea, so it's going to have a lot of antioxidants in it. One of the biggest things there is also looking for the added sugar. That's kind of overarching with all beverages. The manufacturers and companies add sugar because sugar tastes good and people love it, and that can lead to negative health outcomes. But there are some options that don't have as much sugar, so a less sweet variety is totally fine. The pre-packaged or pre-canned matchas, especially if it's like vanilla flavor or some type of flavor with it, just looking at the added sugar there. Having it occasionally is okay, but if you're having it like a daily cup of matcha, definitely being more on the lookout for those added sugars.
Okay, last popular drink question, and then we'll move to a couple of other categories. What about things like liquid IVs and the electrolyte powders? Is there too much sugar in those?
Liquid IV and the drink packets, they do have a sugar-free option. Most of the time, those are used for like athletics or here when we go hiking and things, we'll take that. The sugar has a purpose in it. If you're out on a hike, it's that quick, simple carbohydrate that you need for your cells to continue to give you energy. And it doesn't take long to break down, so you're exerting a lot of energy but it's not taking your body a lot of energy to break down that food to give you the fuel to go on. So they do have a specific purpose. They're mostly used, the sugar varieties are best for athletics or like workouts or things like that. They are very high in sodium, sometimes up to 500 milligrams or 1,000 milligrams of I've seen of sodium, which can easily put you over the daily allotment of sodium. The general recommendation for people who have heart health concerns is 1,500 milligrams. So that's like huge chunks. So if you have heart health concerns, wouldn't recommend. But for a general consumer, you can go up to 2,300 milligrams, but it's still a huge portion of your daily salt or sodium intake. So depending on your activity, depends on if those would be good to have daily or regularly, or if you should have them maybe less frequently.
Yeah, thank you. All right, why don't we move to a different category? Also, questions about plant-based proteins, healthy fats, specifically on tofu, Ryan. I know there's a couple of people here who have interest in tofu, but are there other options other than tofu that are low in phytoestrogens for those folks who may have prior or family history of breast and ovarian cancer?
That are also, is it low carbohydrate as well, or just like plant-based proteins?
I think plant-based protein.
Okay. Yeah, there's tons of different options. You could go beans, you could go with lentils. There's so many different types of beans and varieties of beans that those are going to be high in fiber as well. Lentils, red lentils, green lentils. Those are all great. You could also do some boosters using nuts and seeds. And there's also a cool plant-based protein. It's called seitan. It's not gluten-free, but it is made of wheat gluten, and you can make it at home. It's so fun to make at home, and you can flavor it really well. You can make it into like a more chicken flavor or more like beef-like flavor, but it's just vital wheat gluten. It's just one ingredient, and it's the texture is kind of like a steak cube. I don't eat meat. I don't know. It's like, it's a cube of steak. If you cut a steak and it's in chunks, that's kind of the texture of it. It's so good. It's very, very high protein, one of the highest plant-based protein sources.
Okay. Let's take one more question to keep in line with our meeting best practice of trying to wrap early enough for folks to have a little break before their next meeting. This is a question that I have actually all the time, Ryan. What is the best way to combat sugar cravings, as in thinking about substitutes for healthy snack options? Obviously, fruit is typically the recommendation, but sometimes fruit just doesn't cut it. It doesn't hit the craving. So, do you have other tips for us?
Yes. I typically recommend looking at what types of foods that you are currently eating and if there are any sugar substitutes in them, like stevia or Splenda or any like sugar alternatives. Those aren't necessarily bad, but they are like up to 100 plus times sweeter than sugar. So your taste buds are adapting to the sweetness of those drinks or those items that you're eating. So then when you have sugar, it doesn't taste sweet because your taste buds are used to something a little bit more sweet. So I would just look to see are any of those items regularly occurring in your diet? And if so, maybe just reducing the amount to get your taste buds less used to the sweetness of it. And then outside of that, also just making sure that any meals or snacks are going to be balanced. So adding more protein or more fiber to those snacks to help with that satiety as well.
All right. Fantastic. Well, I think with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap officially for today. I know we didn't get a chance to hit everyone's questions in the interest of time. As Ryan mentioned earlier, some of you may have access to nutrition counseling through Foodsmart's registered dietitians. These are questions that are perfect to bring up to your nutrition coach if you do have that access. We'll also be sending the materials and recording of the webinar. Happy to follow up with any burning questions that were not answered in today's live discussion. But with that, thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone, for your participation and the great feedback and great questions. And hopefully, we'll talk to with you again soon. Take care, everyone.